this should all be review, but I just want to go over some stuff very quickly. Hopefully this video will be less than 5 minutes, but here we go. So here we're looking at absolute value. The absolute value of a number A, written like this with the two bars there, that's read absolute value of A, is the distance between A and 0. So for absolute value, the shortcut, or maybe what you're used to thinking, is any positive number stays positive, any negative number becomes positive. So nothing ever becomes negative, only if there's a negative on the outside. Let's look at an example. So here we have the absolute value of negative 10. Well, the distance from negative 10 to 0 is just 10, so that'll be a positive. The absolute value of 10 is just 10, because that's the distance from 0. Here we have the absolute value of 4, which is just 4, and then we have the negative on the outside. So this absolute value does nothing to that negative, because that negative is on the outside. So this would actually remain as negative 4, because the negative was on the outside of the absolute value. Same with this. That negative stays there, but the inside negative, well, the distance, remember absolute value, the distance from negative pi to 0 is just pi, so that negative goes away, but then we still have that negative from the outside, so that would still be a negative, and so we get negative pi for our answer. Hopefully that's not confusing. Next, we're going to look at the comparison symbols. And that just means less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. So I'm just going to write them all down. So here, this is the way that I remember it. Less than kind of looks like an L, like a slanted L, like less than. That's how I remember it. It looks like an L. So less than or equal to, greater than, or equal to. So fairly straightforward. In your homework, you're going to be putting those symbols in between some absolute value stuff, or maybe some just numbers or decimals or fractions. There you go. And the last section is adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. I'm just going to do examples for this. And we'll start out with these two. So if I have negative 8 minus negative 13, anytime I have minus a negative, that's the same thing as adding. So if I'm subtracting a negative, I'm taking away a negative, that's the same thing as adding positives. So then I'll have negative 8 plus 13, and I'll rewrite it just so it's more clear. You don't have to rewrite it, but negative 8 plus 13. The 13 is bigger, and they're opposite signs. So I would do 13 minus 8. So 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. And the 13 is bigger, and the 13 is positive, so I get a positive 5 for my answer. Same thing happens here. Minus a negative, that's the same thing as adding. And then you get, well, now it's a positive 8 and a positive 13. They're the same sign, so I add them. 13 plus 8, that's 21. And there we go. And we'll continue on. For for part C, 2 minus 65, I have a minus 65. You can consider this a plus a negative. That's what I think of in my head. So then I know that, okay, 65 is negative, and then the 2 is positive. So they have opposite signs. If I'm adding or subtracting and they have opposite signs, I'll subtract them. So I'm really doing good. That was an announcement. So I would do plus a negative 65. So I have 65 negatives and 2 positives. So that means 2 of the positives will cancel out with 2 of the negatives, and I'll get 63, but a negative 63 because this one's bigger. A bigger negative, or a larger quantity, except negative. So there we go. Then we have negative plus a negative. So since they're the same sign, I'm just going to add them and keep that sign. So it would be negative 22. I mean, hopefully that's all you need. I'm not going to do any more. And then I got a lesson under the end of the video. Bye.